Hey, folks, welcome to an early edition of the J&J Sports Express. My name, of course, is Jeff Cadillac, your co-host for the next 30 minutes, along with my partner, JB Ellis. JB, how are you doing today?
Doing well. I mean, it's early. You got me on here early. What'd you do what kind of strings are you pulling to make this happen?
Yeah,
We got
okay. Yeah, you
daytime
want to
talk.
tell the audience that it's not my idea, it was your idea. So let's not with the funny
It's always
Grinch
you.
grin over there. And
You're pulling the strings over there. You're the puppet
yeah,
master.
yeah. Let's come on. Yeah, you're trying to sell it, but nobody's buying it. You know what I mean?
It's already
This
voiced.
week,
Well,
as we get
the
closer
first
to the
one.
playoffs, a lot of teams get more desperate in their search for that playoff spot. And there's a lot of games going on. It might not look like anything on the schedule, but to each individual team, it means a lot because it could mean a playoff spot. It could mean spoiler. It could mean a draft position for next year. So there's a lot riding on certain games that even though they might not, be in the playoff hunt, they still have a lot to do with the playoff picture. So moving right along, we'll go to the first game. We have a Saturday schedule. We're looking at the New York Giants at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota is laying 3.5 as the home fave. How you liking this one, JB?
I am shocked the line is this low. The Vikings are gonna have their way with the Giants. The Giants are coming off a important victory in the last second as they've done all year. They're playing better than anyone has expected them. They've already won this season. The odds of them getting into the playoffs are really good after the win against Washington. This is going to be a letdown game. Even though Minnesota had the craziest comeback in the world against Indianapolis, the Giants have to go fly to Minnesota into the frozen land on Christmas Eve. I just don't see the Giants showing up here. It'll show a
Yeah,
lot about their fortitude and what they think of who they are. But when it's all said and done, I think Minnesota's the better team. And for 3.5, I think that's a gift.
so you like Minnesota in this game?
Yeah, I would have taken Minnesota up till about 8.
Well, I'll tell you something. What I find about this game is, you know, first of all, they're not playing outside, which you said they got to fly into the frozen tundra. They're not playing this game in the frozen tundra. They're playing it in the nice confines of, a dome stadium where the temperature will probably be around 72 degrees. So there's no weather even factoring in to this game whatsoever. And Minnesota has definitely lost their edge once they started playing games inside. Minnesota, you don't know what you get week to week. I mean, I was talking to either you or somebody this week, and after the Indianapolis game, honestly, I still walked away saying which one was the worst team because Indianapolis for losing that big 33 to nothing lead, or Minneapolis or Minnesota for getting down 33 points and having to win that game overall. I mean, which team is worse? I don't know, to be honest with you, because both of them were pretty bad. I give a lot of credit to the Vikings for coming back, but it just shows that their defense is terrible also. Anybody can score points on Minnesota. And the problem with Minnesota is you don't know what team shows up week to week. They're not a constant. They're not a team that they're going to win or they're going to lose or they're going to cover. Like I said, they get blown out by Dallas. The next week they beat Minneapolis. Minneapolis. They beat New England. Week to week, you don't know. Then they go in, they lose against Detroit. The next week they have this miraculous comeback against the Colts. Which team is showing up? Kirk Cousins, I can tell you right now, Minnesota Vikings, all you guys out there, they're not going to the Super Bowl. All right? You cannot have inconsistencies in a playoff game and think that you're going to miraculously make a comeback and come back.
Super Bowl. We're not talking about
Okay?
Super Bowl.
I'm just saying because we're talking about this team.
They're a quicker team
Relax.
in an indoor stadium on turf. This game favors the Vikings.
Finish.
Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson.
Can I finish?
No.
You're gonna let me talk?
Go ahead.
The Giants, they did what they had to do on Monday night. I'm sorry, and Sunday night against Washington. That game could have gone either way because the defense for the Giants, they got a little bit of lucky. They made some nice defensive moves in the beginning, but Washington, they turned the ball over, and no call for the pass interference in the end zone. Certain things could have gone either way. You know, they had third down on the 1 yard line, Washington, and they couldn't get it done. And they had that extra penalty, moved them back. Listen, that game could have gone either way. The Giants have definitely played a very good season under Brian Daboll. They have a lot to build on this team. They have a lot to be happy about. The reason why they didn't sign Odell Beckham is because they're not one player away from making it to the Super Bowl. They're a number of players away. They need players on defense, and they also need players on offense. If you're going to play a 17-game season, you can win a game here and there, but over the course of the season, you're not going to be winning it all. I happen to agree with you in this game. I like Minnesota -3.5. The Giants have played a nice season and everything, but teams are starting to get ready for the playoffs. Minnesota is definitely a playoff caliber team. How deep they go into the playoffs is basically up to them. But again, week to week, you never know what you get because the Minnesota defense is very suspect. Their secondary can be, a good pass here and there. You got a quarterback that looks at the film. He's going to take them to the house. But in this game, come Saturday, I like Minnesota, late at 3.5. And they should win by at least 7.
Listen, there are two playoff teams going at it, but there's a clear class difference. Minnesota is clearly the better team. I don't see this being a close game, but it'll be fun to watch.
Okay. The next game we're looking at is also on Saturday. It's Cincinnati at New England. New England is the home team. They're getting 3.5. So Cincinnati is the road favorite. Who do you like in this game, JB?
So, you have one team that is in a tie game in the fourth quarter, coached by the coach that handles all the little things. And they throw a lateral and lose the game with their quarterback looking like he got crushed. This is not the New England Patriots we're used to. Meanwhile, you got cool Joe Cool over there, going to New England, and they're going to just flat out destroy the Patriots. This is a statement game for them. They want to show people that they're for real. And, going to New England on Christmas Eve and being the Grinch that they can be and making Bill Belichick look foolish, big-time game for Cincinnati. I think Joe Burrow has his way with them. That offense in New England is not scary. Their defense is okay. I don't foresee this being a very close game either. I think this game could be a lot higher.
Well, I happen to agree with you. I happen to agree with you on the fact on Cincinnati. I'll tell you about New England. New England had that game won against the Raiders because they were up 24-17 in this game, and Raiders got the ball back. They played prevent defense, which the prevent defense only does one thing. It prevents you from winning. And they let the Raiders go down the field and even get a 4th and 10 pass for a first down, which is unbelievable in a Belichick coach team. They also made mistakes on the next. Obviously, everybody knows about the crazy play. Listen, the score was tied. You could go. The worst thing that could happen is you were going into overtime. I don't know what happened there. There was a breakdown in communication as to what was going on the field. But when I saw Chandler Jones make that catch and run with the ball, at first I was like, who is that? Chandler Jones? He has done nothing for the Raiders this season. I can tell you this right now. He has like 4.5 sacks or 5.5 sacks the whole season, and he had 3 in one game versus 4.5. He has 3 in one game against the Chargers. He's been a complete waste of money and talent on that team. It's obvious he's just, cashing in. New England, I tell you this right now. Come training camp next year, there will be a competition for that quarterback spot. Mac Jones was terrible. If you look at his stats against the Raiders last week, he's absolutely terrible. He left guys open. They should have never been in that position as they were at the end of the game. They should have won that game, no problem. The prevent defense, I don't know what was going on over there. I was watching it saying, you're making this guy look like a superstar. And with the Raiders, every time they win a game, it legitimizes a bad team, a badly coached team, and a bad ownership. And it just lets them keep on doing what they're doing. They're not going anywhere. They're just like one of those gnats that just keep flying around and you can't hit them. Cincinnati, listen, they take advantage of everything. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week were up 17-3 at halftime. What happens?
What a comeback. What a comeback.
They muff a punt. Cincinnati takes advantage. Then 4 straight turnovers by Tampa Bay. Cincinnati takes advantage. They don't leave points on the field. They put them on the board. Joe Burrow is all business. He's looking at film on every team that he plays, and he knows exactly what's coming. At the beginning of the season, everybody was a little suspect because the offensive line for Cincinnati wasn't doing their job. In the first 2 games, I think Joe Burrow was sacked like 12 times. I get it. It takes time for offensive line to mesh. Now he's on autopilot. I'm telling you, he is going full focus right now. They're my favorite in the AFC. I said this last night on another show. They're my favorite to go to the Super Bowl because they don't make mistakes. They are really doing the job. I know whoever posted that, I don't know what you're talking about. Because, first of all, Kansas City makes a lot of mistakes. Buffalo makes mistakes. Joe Burrow and company doesn't make mistakes. And I love them to beat New England by like 2 touchdowns in this game.
We're going to have a long talk about that as we get later in the season into the playoffs, but I'm going to say no, you're wrong. We'll see, though.
Okay, listen, our next game on Saturday also at 4 o'clock is Washington at San Francisco. San Francisco's laying 7. JB, how do you like it?
So that's an interesting spread. Brock Purdy playing the Commanders. The Commanders' defense is good. But again, I'm going to say San Francisco has too many toys for Purdy. He's like the kid waking up on Christmas morning. What are you going to unwrap? He's got McCaffrey. He's got Debo. He's got Ayuk. He's got Kittles. He's got it all. He's got the dream situation. And their defense is legit. What is Washington's offense going to do against that defense? So, Washington is in desperate need of a win after losing the game to the Giants at this point. So they're going to play, with their hearts out. But they're traveling out west. Again, it's Christmas Eve. They're flying all the way across the country. They need to win this game. So I think the 7 may be a little bit high because of that, because they're going to play their hearts out, but they're not going to win the game. And even though I say the 7's high, I can see San Francisco blowing them out at the same time. But I'm going to take the 7 with Washington only because how bad they need this win. And, I just think that they're going to play their hearts out, but I don't see them doing much. If for them to cover the 7-point spread, it's going to be a very low-scoring game. It can't be, anywhere in the 20s, which would be way too high.
Well, I happen to disagree with you on this one, and I like San Francisco, and I'll tell you why. Washington also has a very nice season going on, but they are not going to be able to take that next step. They have a nice core of 3 receivers that Taylor Heineke has to throw to. Samuel, you got Dotson, and I forget who the other one is off the top of my head. But you have a nice core. They have something to build on for 2023. As long as Taylor Heineke is in there, they give this team a lot of fire. Like I said about the Sunday night game, that game could have gone either way with Washington winning or the Giants, but I did like the Giants, and I like them getting the points. Washington's defense, we'll see how it goes when Chase Young finally gets back into the routine. He hasn't played in a very long while. He'll be rusty whenever that first game is back, but he'll definitely add something to this defense. I see a lot of good things for 2023 for the Washington team. They have a lot of promise as long as Ron Rivera doesn't find a way to screw it up. They've been playing very well. I like them. San Francisco, on the other hand, they're just dynamite as can be. They have a nice long rest after their Thursday night win against Seattle. And if you look at that game, San Francisco could have easily scored 40 points in that game. They toyed with Seattle. They let them hang around a little bit. They covered that nice spread, which was fine. That game was 21-3 for a long time. Seattle got back into it with a field goal. San Francisco missed a field goal. And Seattle got a dummy touchdown at the end. But, yes, Brock Purdy is playing very well. He's taking the most of an opportunity, and he knows what he's doing. It's really nice to see somebody that just such a low draft choice comes in and really, the moment doesn't overwhelm him, and he comes in and he's able to produce and keep the team winning and stay focused. That defense in San Francisco is very good. I think I like Washington, but I think San Francisco is going to beat them by 14 at home. I mean, nobody wants to play San Francisco at this point. I can tell you that right now. They're just on a roll.
I can't disagree with you on that. Like I said, the only thing Washington can do to cover, it has to be a low-scoring game. Their defense is really good. I'm not gonna, take any points or take points away from Washington's defense, but their offense is not going to be able to score points on the 49ers defense. So it's going to be a tough task for that offense. But two problems. One, when we talk about Curtis Samuel, it's Brooklyn's own Curtis Samuel out of Erasmus High School. One of the guys I played football with in high school is the coach there and coached him. So we always have to respect Curtis Samuel. He was a great pickup for Washington. I wish the Giants would have got him. He's got a lot of speed, and he gives them a nice look outside of Dotson. So I agree with you completely on that. But we always refer to him as Brooklyn's own Curtis Samuel out of Erasmus because, gotta love the kid.
Okay. I told you, Washington has a lot of promise for 2023. They got a lot of good pieces that they've added. I like Taylor Heineke. He brings a lot to the table. What's his name? Carson Wentz, who's sitting in the back, basically holding a clipboard. They need to get rid of him real fast because he's not a team kind of player. And Taylor Heineke, I really like the guy. I really think he's grown this season. He's definitely making less mistakes as the weeks go by, which is very good. But this is a week where, unfortunately, they kind of get slammed by San Francisco.
It's a bad backup after the Giants game. I feel bad because, like you said, they are on an upswing. And I do like what they're doing down there. But after losing if they had won the Giants game, it wouldn't have been as bad, obviously, because they'd be in a great position. But after losing that game, having to fly west and play San Francisco, it's just tough.
Well, considering the fact that Washington started out the season with Carson Wentz as their quarterback, they're already in a hole. And I didn't predict with Carson Wentz that they were really going to do too much because he's not a winner. He's a complainer. Everywhere he goes, they get tired of him. I'm telling you, right now, he's just there as insurance for the rest of the season. But after the season, they're definitely going to let him go. And Washington's going to make some, changes because they need a competent backup, but they don't need a Carson Wentz. They'll probably release him.
Quick question before we move on. You're the GM of a team. You have a choice for your starting quarterback. You can only choose one of these two guys. They're the only two available to you. Baker Mayfield or Carson Wentz. Who are you taking?
I take Baker Mayfield because he still wants to win. Carson Wentz is, you know what you're getting with Baker Mayfield. He's going to be a gunslinger. You know that. He doesn't change. He showed it on Monday night against Green Bay. He's going to make mistakes. You know it. But Carson Wentz is not a guy that unites the team. You don't need somebody who's going to come in and create turmoil. Everywhere he goes, he creates turmoil. They got rid of him in Philly. They got rid of him in Indy. They're going to get rid of him in Washington.
And he had a sweet spot in Philly. If he all he had to do was shut up and play.
Right, but he can't. So that's why he's going to be on his fourth team next year.
Yep.
Look at it. Okay, Saturday night. Saturday afternoon. Philly at Dallas. Dallas is favored by 5. Right now, Jalen Hurts, quarterback for Philly, his status is up in the air. But who do you like in this game, JB, and why?
So before we get to who we like and why, you're the coach and the GM of the Eagles. Why in the world do you play Jalen Hurts if you don't need to this game? There's no possible reason to play him. Why would you play him?
I play him because I want to make sure that he get the number 1 seed.
They have the tiebreaker against Minnesota. They have another game against the Giants, which put us a win now. Let the guy rest. There's no worries about the number 1 seed. It's all yours.
You know what? History has shown that when you rest guys, they get rusty and they're not ready for the playoffs. Okay,
Well, I'm not
here's
saying
a
to shut him down. I'm saying he's hurt. Let's
perfect
not rush
example.
him back.
Right, if he's not hurt, perfect example. I will give you a perfect example. Green Bay was 14-1. Matt Flynn comes in and plays the last game of the season. He wins. Green Bay's 15-1. First round of the playoffs, Rodgers comes in, they lose. This is what happens. It's a constant. You got to keep guys playing. You got to keep them in that frame of mind. If they
I'm
know
not
they're not
disagreeing.
playing, if they know they're not playing, they get too relaxed. Football is the kind of game that's what happens. But let's focus in. Let's go back to this game.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this game. Dallas is favored by 5. Who do you like?
Listen, I'm going with the Eagles. When it comes down to it, this year, since Dak has gotten back from his injury, what he has shown me is he just doesn't have it to lead this team to get wins. Their defense got lit up and exposed last week. This is all the Eagles to take all the mojo out of the Dallas Cowboys. I like the Eagles by probably about 5-7.
I have to agree with you on this. I think, first of all, Dak Prescott is not one of those guys that you can put the team on your shoulders and say, I'm going to take you to the promised land. He's shown that when the pressure is on, he folds up like a house of cards. And I loved Jacksonville last week against Dallas because I knew first of all, you're talking Doug Peterson. He knows Dallas. People forget, oh, yeah, head coach of the Eagles. So he played Dallas. He knows Dak Prescott. I loved the Jaguars last week. I'm not surprised that they lost. Dallas was up 27-10 in that game and lost. What does that tell you? Cowboys, also, the secondary for the Cowboys is very banged up. It's overrated. They also do not play the run very well. As much as they say they want to play the run, Philly is a run-heavy type of team. They are going to, even with Gardner Minshew, they are going to be a run-heavy team. Miles Sanders is kicking himself because he had that fumble last week. I don't see him fumbling this week. And they're going to get their run game going, and they're going to beat Cowboys by at least 7. I like this game. I think Philly, listen, you want to keep winning. You want to keep going. You start losing late in the season, believe me, it gets contagious. And teams will all of a sudden lose that first round of the playoffs. Dallas, you don't know what you get from week to week. That's the problem. They're also like Minnesota. You don't know what you get. One week they look like gangbusters. 1 week, they almost lost against Houston. All right? Houston gets that last second or a few minutes touchdown. It's 30-10 Houston, and Dallas loses the game. And then the week before that, I believe it was the game against Indy. You're going into the fourth quarter, 21-19. They score all these points off turnovers. Yeah, they're running around like they just won the Super Bowl. Dallas is a very unpredictable team. I have a very good friend. I want to share a very good friend of mine who is a Dallas Cowboy fan. And his biggest fear for most of the season, because he knows they're not winning the East, is that Dallas will have to go on the road, wild card weekend, and probably play a team in the NFC South and lose the first round. And that's his biggest fear. And that's what's going to happen because Dallas and Dak Prescott is not, for some reason, he just can't win. It's like he's an average quarterback at best, being way overpaid for his talent. And I like Philly in this game.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see since Dak has come back, he just hasn't been right. I don't think he's a top-tier quarterback, but I don't think he's as bad as he's been playing. I think somewhere between healthy Dak and where he is now is where he should be, and he's just not there. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's maybe, just who knows? Maybe his shoulder is not as, sound as he's letting on. And who knows? Who really knows? All right, the fifth game that we're looking at is on Sunday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's Green Bay at Miami. Miami is favored by 4. JB, who do you like in this one?
Wow. Miami's having a rough patch. But they're playing at home in Miami against a Packers team that, had a huge win against on Monday night that is somewhat still in the playoff hunt. If a miracle happens, I don't see how this is a 4-point spread either. I like Miami by a touchdown at least. Tua hasn't been as good as he started off the year. They're missing something, but they're not on the road. They're at home. You know, Green Bay's got to travel to the heat, which takes a toll on teams. It's not going to be as hot as it would be in September or October, but it's still not going to be what Green Bay's used to. You know, Rodgers has not been that good. I don't know. I like Miami by a touchdown here.
I have to disagree with you on this one. Okay, Green Bay, first of all, you said they got a big win on Monday night. They were favored by 7 points against a banged up, awful Ram team, okay? A Ram team that is 31st in the league in rushing offense, didn't play with Aaron Donald. He was out. So Green Bay, basically Rodgers had his pick of the litter. And you know what? They still threw an interception, fumbled the ball, and the Rams were still hanging around at the end of the game. So for them to get that win, it wasn't huge. It wasn't big. I mean, they didn't beat a good team when you're favored by 7 and you win by 12. That, you know, they could have had that. They could have had that touchdown.
Schedule.
They could have had that touchdown at the end, but they decided to take a knee. The score should have actually been 40-12 because Rodgers and company, they kind of got a little lackadaisical. The problem is with NFL teams is what I'm seeing is that they don't take the other team as seriously as they should, and they play down to that team, and they let them hang around. It's the same thing what Philly did last week against the Bears. They let them hang around, and that's dangerous because anything can happen. A turnover, a penalty. Before you know it, you're losing. Green Bay in this game has a lot to play for. Miami, I liked Miami with the points against Buffalo. They blew that game. They were up 29-21. They should have held on and won. The Miami defense is suspect. They're not that good. The defense is what's holding everything down. You got Bradley Chubb. He's another guy that's kind of disappeared. Since he's been on the Miami Dolphins, he's only had 1.5 or 2.5 sacks in 6 games or 7 games. This is not good. You need to put pressure on the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers right now is probably watching film on the whole Miami defense and saying, I could beat this guy, I could beat this guy, and that's what he's going to do. Green Bay is still in the hunt. Miami has definitely faltered. They've gone down. I'm kind of surprised about it, but they're not going to – this is going to be a very close game. If Green Bay loses or Miami wins, it's going to be by a field goal. That's about it. But I like Green Bay to maybe even upset Miami in Miami because the weather's going to be fine and Rodgers is going to be smiling.
So you heard it here first. Jeff Cadillac calls the Green Bay upset. You know, red and green on Christmas, Green Bay playing in Miami. I don't know. So, could be something to it. You know, one game real quick just before we end. We didn't put on the list today. Thursday night, Jacksonville coming off a huge win against Dallas, flying into MetLife, playing the Jets. Real quick, no analysis. What do you like here?
I like the Jets. Bounce back. Big bounce back. Who do you like?
Listen, I'm going to agree with you. I think the Jets win. I think Jacksonville beating Dallas last week was huge for them. I think that was almost like a Super Bowl for them. You know, now playing the lowly Jets, they're going to be like, we're just playing the Jets. They're going to have a little bit of a letdown. When the Jets are hungry, Robert Saleh, I'm telling you, I like that guy. If the Giants didn't have Brian Dable, I'd be all about trying to get Saleh. I think he's a good coach. So I think the Jets are going to win the game. It's going to be a close game, but I like the Jets there. So where can people find you, Jeff?
You can find me at sportskeeda.com in the betting section. You can find me on Twitter at JeffCadillac1, my website, JeffCadillac.com, Twitter at JeffCadillac1, I believe I said, Sideline Sports here, and on Friday nights, Rick Kamler on the Better Sports Network. And also I do spots with Dr. Roto on Better Sports Network as well. Download the app, folks. It's free.
So JB_the program on Twitter, Sideline Sports Tuesday night, here Wednesdays, usually at 7. Both sides of the coin every other week on Wednesdays at 11. Don't forget about the South Florida Tribune Sports Exchange at 9. Confidential, out of season right now, once a month. We'll let you know where the next one's at, but I hear we're going to have some great guests. But next week, little housekeeping. It's a holiday show. I won't be around. Jeff I'm not sure his schedule yet. He is getting pulled in multiple ways. If he's available, he will do the show. If not, we're going to take a holiday vacation, and we'll see you for week 16, if I'm correct.
Week 17.
Well, week 16 for us. The NFL will be at 17.
Yeah.
They don't count.
Anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yes, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa if you celebrate that. Just celebrate, be good, watch some football. We'll see you next 2 weeks.